Like the man said, with great power comes a great big pain in the ass. For my sake and sanity, please don't believe in Santa.
Believe in Santa!
Hi there everyone, Scott and Lars back with another review and analysis for Sanda, episode 6. This time, oh my gosh, deck the halls with blood and holly because this is a violent episode, but a good one nonetheless.
Oh man, like we've been setting up a major battle between Santa and the principal for episodes now. Like they've been kind of trying to get at each other in different ways, but like kind of just being around the bush, not really doing anything directly to each other. And now we're getting a full-on confrontation, and it's very well done. It's something Sanda didn't really want right off the bat, but it's kind of helping him like progress, kind of help him get better in his own way.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those fights that I would argue feels incredibly organic to how the plot is going and is a logical setup for how things will progress, and also gives a logical loss, if not a stalemate at best, to the main character against the villain. And we'll definitely get into like how ideologies clash, personalities clash, what the heck is all going on, because despite the fact that this episode is just largely one self-contained slogging match, there's a lot to get into. So we'll just quickly cover the main events of this episode and then dive into the analysis, because the analysis is where a lot of the fun really is in this fight. So we pick up with the principal catching Fuyamura and Ono, and being like, oh, so Ono is alive, and she is now a teenager. Well, it's time to punish her. And it's like, what the heck? You're going to treat this poor girl like that the moment that she comes back into the public eye in any kind of way? Not that she wanted to. We've already discussed how what she's there for is probably not the best, definitely not the best scenario. But anyway, wanting to punish Ono is not okay at all. And Sanda and Amaya actually managed to arrive on the scene just in time to overhear this. However, they don't show themselves just yet. Sanda wants to step in and basically be the human shield and be all like, no, you're looking actually for me because I'm Santa. And Amaya's like, do not do this. This is a horrible idea. Sanda wrestles himself out of the situation, and he goes to confess that he is Santa Claus, hoping that this will give Ono and Fuyamura a chance to escape. Amaya being the only smart person in this situation, realizes this is not good and throws all of the laundry onto Sanda, transforming him into Santa. This is a little bit crazy because he was not able to transform into Santa earlier when fighting against Subaru, so what exactly is going on here? But transform into Santa he does, and not just undie-wearing Santa, but he's now like beginning of Spider-Man days, Spider-Man Santa. Definitely got the ghetto outfit going. There's one other important thing to note in this particular scene that is essential for the fight going forwards. And this is that one of the principal's eyes begins glitching really early on, and that's one of the reasons why he also can't tell who is speaking in this moment. We get the revelation very quickly that he's got fake eyes, 2 fake eyes in his face. And as the fight begins to progress, we realize this man has sacrificed all of his humanity. He doesn't even have balls that Santa can later on kick in. But suddenly, Sanda can transform into Santa. The principal fully rearranges himself, and he's like, ha! Our time has come at last, Santa! And then Santa pulls a shocking move and is like, are you okay? Do you need to sit down? You're an old man and everything. He's like, your hands are all wrinkly and decrepit. We should sit down, give you a chance to think this over. Let's talk things over like rational adults. And this pisses the principal off, as the principal's like, do you know what I've gone through? All of the surgeries to overcome aging? I am not old. Yes, I know I'm old, but I'm not old. And all of his surgeries start coming undone as he is so angry that it rips his youthful face apart. And he starts looking more like Frankenstein's monster as he then starts carving into Santa. So we get a full-on fight between Santa and the principal in the middle of the washroom, and Santa needs an extra boost of magic because the principal is actually a raging beast. This guy is wrong in so many ways. And Fuyamura, it's like we shall sleep because Santa comes when kids are asleep. So Fuyamura lies down to sleep, as does Amaya, as does Ono, giving Santa brief a brief boost of energy, and he then trashes the principal at first until the principal has his flashback moments like, through the power of flashbacks, I remember that I have gone through so much worse. I have had almost my entire body replaced, you monster. And he reveals himself as the real monster and just starts carving into Santa, splattering blood and gore everywhere as he tortures Santa. And because Santa's got regenerative powers, the principal can just keep on hacking and slashing into him as his heart desires. And he keeps disabling Santa, slashing away at his spine and at his tendons to completely immobile him.
Immobilize.
Immobilize. There we go. Well, everything takes an odd turn when this little Granny Toyo shows up sipping. Is she sipping tea? Is she sipping sake? It's really hard to tell in the moment. But she then single-handedly takes on the principal because she's like, "You're still an old man. You're using a cane." Takes out his cane and he just, boom, he goes down like a tree. And it just crashes. And everyone escapes. And the principal is so stunned by Madame Toyo showing up that he really has no idea how he is supposed to respond to this. The kids escape, Santa escapes, and Santa and Madame Toyo share a moment on the stairs where she's all like, "I'm an old woman, help me, put me on your back, carry me." And they talk, and Santa reflects on how I don't really know where I'm going. I said I didn't want to be Santa, but now I'm committing to be Santa. Then I was saying that at one point I would just completely give myself over to Santa, but then Sanda has feelings and wants to be a kid, and I didn't really want to fight, but I stepped in to protect these children because I care about these children. I care so much, and I'm so drawn that I just want to cry. And she said, like, yeah, it's kind of hard flopping back and forth between being old and being young. If you really want to be strong, then you're going to have to learn, Santa. You have to learn some hard lessons. And that is where that's not exactly where the episode ends. The episode ends after the credits with Sanda hanging out with Fuyamura actually hanging out with Ono. Ono trying to get a little bit close to Fuyamura, and Fuyamura is just kind of like, this is awkward. I'm so happy that you're back, but I don't know why you're acting this way. Sanda arrives to give some new clothes to Ono and offer to get some food, and Fuyamura is like, "I'm coming with you, Sanda," and leaves with him, leaving Ono completely alone and forlorn. And that's where the episode ends.
Oh wow, it is a wild episode, and like I was saying before, they've been building up to this for a while, and it's not over. I just feel like this battle's been postponed for the time being because more powerful entity disturbed the balance that's been created. Oh man, so good. There's so much what's the right word for it? So much character growth for Sanda this episode. Some beautiful character growth for Sanda. Because we go from him being worried about the implications of him turning into Santa Claus, of all of the identity of Santa Claus taking over his life so he can't be a kid anymore, to him full on pretty much accepting that role just so he can protect the kids around him. But there's also that worry that, like, is that Sanda himself deciding to do this, or is this Santa Claus deciding to do this? And there's some questions there. There's some, like, worry that these characters have, that Sanda specifically should be having over what's going on. But I think he cares. I think in the heat of the moment, he cared more for the safety of his friends, that he was willing to jump into that.
It's such an interesting conversation at this point in the story because the lines are blurring more and more between Sanda and Santa. And I think that, at least for me, one of the most important things is that both Sanda and Santa, in this case, did what was arguably the right thing: intercede on Fuyamura and Ono's behalf. He didn't go about it very smartly because it's already been established Sanda's a bit of an idiot.
I mean, there's no denying that.
Yeah, Santa's a little bit more clever, but it's not like Santa is a genius. And
Yeah.
so Santa's still very much figuring this stuff out as he goes along as well, which is why we get that really good confession in the hallway and on the staircase of just like how he's just like, I'm so drawn, I'm so torn. And here we get, again, coming back to one of the main themes of this overall story is aging, being young, growing old, and the story, I don't think, is really ever going to say outright, "This is how thou shalt live," but instead, in its very own nuanced way, explore through Santa that dichotomy, but also that relationship of youth and age. And how do you bring the two together? How do you reconcile them? Because, as well, very light spoilers for the story going forward, Madame Toyo, who is an incredibly powerful old granny, is indeed very old. And she's come to terms with that. She represents age going forward. But the answer isn't just grow old, because the principal has his message. His ideology comes through very clearly in this episode, and at its core, it's not a bad one. It is accept youth, embrace youth, use youth. The problem is that this guy refuses to age, and that's not good.
Well, and he takes it too far, because it's one thing if you're like, while you're young, while you're in your youth, while you have the energy to do it, do everything you possibly can. Don't be lazy with it, which is a wonderful concept. Honestly, something I need to work on more myself. His biggest problem, though, is it's not an internal mantra. It's not something just for himself, even though he's definitely pushing himself just as much as he pushes everyone else. But it's the fact he's pushing everybody else for that same exact ideal. It's and he takes it way too far. It's full on, like, pathological altruism, like, at its worst.
Yes. We were discussing this before we began recording, and just like to try to make it as brief as possible, I said, like, in a way, this feels a lot like when people found out that Lance Armstrong was doping to win cycling tournaments, which was a real gut punch, because for a time Armstrong was a symbol of resilience, a symbol of strength, a symbol of bounding back, of the boundless potential of the human body and soul after beating cancer. People just looked up to him. The moment that people found out that he was cheating his way through, it took away from whatever message he tried to preach and what he tried to embody. It's kind of the same with the principle. It's not a bad ideology, but the guy is effectively cheating by rather, like, he's replaced almost his entire humanity with machinery and drugs.
Yeah.
You can't say he's human anymore. You can't say he's young anymore. He's transcended that, and not in a positive way.
Yeah. I do really think it makes his character a little more interesting, because he's such a hypocrite about that. He's so blinded by his drive to become young again. He will use anything and everything that he can get a hold of to do that, even though it's completely defying the actual goal he's running towards.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. He's a hypocrite.
Very much so. But like, it's honestly in a lot of stories, making your character a bit of a hypocrite on like something or another, it adds a bit of depth to the character, because like having them have things that they struggle with that they don't necessarily know how to deal with, and they keep going back and forth and they're not making the right decisions, that's a good way to push your character into some like very interesting growth that often will push the story forward, will make the story better.
Mm-hmm.
And it should apply to your villains just as much as your heroes.
Thinking about that, I really enjoyed writing into one of my villains for the Legend of the Ten Lords this idea that he was always telling the truth. That was something that he prided himself on. He's like, I always tell the truth. I'm always honest. And he's always like, you should be honest with yourself. And he lords that over others because he knows that everyone else has got secrets that they wish to keep, that they wish to live.
Right.
And he exploits that, not in a completely manipulative way, but rather say he just throws it back into their faces. He's like, you like, you're false, you're fake. And because you're fake, you're weak, and I can always find a way to exploit that weakness. If you don't want me to exploit your weakness, just give up. And when he's finally brought down, it's by another character who lives in lies. A character like lies are his power, and he's just thought, and he's like, you've been lying to yourself this whole time. Yes, you are always honest, but you've taken it to the point now where what you do is dishonest. You're a monster, not a saint. And when that's thrown back into his face, he's like, oh my gosh, you're right. And then that becomes his weakness that can then be mentally and magically exploited.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, but like, just there's so much going on this episode, even though, and I feel like it handles it so well. And we've had a few different shows we've talked about. We've definitely talked about this topic before, where a lot of shonen specifically, like anime and manga, they focus so much on the fight, not necessarily the meaning behind the fight. The fight's just there to be entertainment. And I'm looking at like Chainsaw Man and Solo Leveling, stuff like that, where it's just like, oh, they're just fighting to fight at this point. And it's kind of frustrating to watch, because like, oh, like there's no point to the fight other than the fight, just the entertainment value. But in this case, there's so much, like, they've built up so much to finally have this confrontation, and the confrontation's not over. It's postponed for the time being, and the characters, both the principal and Santa, have the chance to get stronger to prepare for the next battle. So that next battle is going to play out differently than this one. And this one was intense, and I think part of the thing is intense is they were so evenly matched. There's such an interesting thing when you create an immortal versus like the principal who can't feel anything. Like, none of their attacks have any effect. It's like you're watching like Deadpool and Wolverine fight, because like when Deadpool and Wolverine fight, they're just going to keep healing. Like, it's not going to stop until either something gets in the way or they decide to give up. So,
and we get that something coming in the way in the form of Madame Toyo.
Right, very much so. But like, love the other characters in this, like the younger ones. You got Ono, Fumura, Amaya coming in and helping. Like, that power up. There's some implications with that power up. Honestly, when does it, like, where does it end? Because like, the more kids who believe in Santa, the more powerful he gets. Where does that end? Like, from the statement they've made in the show, like in the story so far, it could be exponential based off of how many kids believe in Santa at that point.
And we, in a way, we do have an interesting limiter since this is taking place in a school. And there's only so many kids in the school, and we learn there's only roughly 50,000 children left in Japan. So unless this is somehow a story that goes global, Santa does have a limiter to his power in terms of kids who could believe in him.
Right, but like, and that's the thing that's going on here. He's got three at the moment. Well, and maybe himself. It's kind of up in the air if that actually counts. I think it does, but it's hard to tell. But like, he's got three at the moment, full on believing in him. What happens if it hits that 50,000? Like, what happens if it hits the entirety of the school? It's gonna skyrocket. It's gonna get bigger, and I know like the implications of that's gonna stretch in the next few episodes because we're gonna finally find out what's going on in the basement, and those kids believe in Santa Claus. It's not a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to be getting some really dark stuff here soon.
Oh,
If you thought this
man.
episode was dark, oh,
Oh man, but like such a wild episode. Let's see. Anything else we need to talk about?
there's there's one thing I think is good to point out is that the typhoon ended,
The typhoon
and
didn't.
by implications, it seemed to have ended rather quickly, which has massive world building implications because
Oh,
we know
yeah.
that the weather is off. We know that that the world's nature is off in this dystopian future. And suddenly something that we're all like, this is supposed to last like 2 to 3 months? What? Is suddenly over within a few days, at least as far as we've been told. That
Yeah.
means that nature's been righted, at least to a certain
Ooh,
extent. Is it because
that is an
Santa's around?
that is an interesting implication. I did not think of that. Did not think of that. Huh. That yeah, that's really interesting there.
It should make us think a bit about what kind of an effect Santa has on the world. That as people are debating the ideology that has built up this dystopian Japanese future, it's very clear that there's a lot that's wrong. Just look at nature; it's all messed up. But now that Santa's around, things seem to be slowly going back to where they should, at least as of this episode. We got a lot of story left to go. It'll be interesting to see how the world itself heals or changes because belief is back, because a certain amount of real childhood innocence is back, and that a defender of faith and childhood is now back on the scene. As the world kind of spiritually heals to a certain extent, there's a chance for real physical healing, which, if you then want to boil that down and make it smaller, Fuyamura. Like we
Mm-hmm.
talked about how Fuyamura's reliance on Santa at Sanda's expense is not okay. It's not healthy. But what she is getting from Santa is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen her now in various episodes and in this episode do the childish thing, do that blind faith thing, believe in an adult who will protect her, who will support her. And that's good, especially when the adult is someone like Santa who will do the right thing, or at least the best that he can. And this is, I think, part of the greater nuance of Sanda, of the story, of that. It's like, yeah, blind faith itself is probably but it's when it's actually put into someone or into something that is good that it can lead to great things.
Right. Very true.
So then, with all that being said, we now want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on this latest episode of Sanda? Do you think that we were on point? Were we off? Did we get something wrong? We'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And as we are marching on our way towards Christmas, holy cow, December is only a few weeks away. Enjoy Thanksgiving as it comes. If you'd like to put some goodies into our stockings, you can also like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and check out the books that we've published. Links for them are in the description below. They also make good gifts for other people. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing. And until the next video, y'all, choose.
Okini.